Hello everybody and welcome back to the My Generation podcast. I hope you are doing well wherever you are at the moment. So for context for this episode was recorded I've completely forgotten the date. It'd be really good if I knew the date. It's the 9th of April recording this episode. And as a result, currently at the time of as of me recording this, still at home, staying at home, social distancing and all, with the current situation. So I hope when you're listening to this, you're safe and well in whatever the situation is in the future. But I thought I'd do an episode today talking about video games, which was something I got back into as a result of the isolation. I'd been off of video games for 3 years, and today I wanted to talk about how a very specific video game has changed my perspective on gaming in general, and how my return to gaming has helped me. Because I took a step back from it and I wanted to sort of paint a picture of my entire journey, what it's been like, and encourage a conversation about people who've suffered from maybe video game addiction in the past and what that's like, because I know that can be something that people are going through and something that I was going through. But now I have a more positive outlook. And I wanted to talk in this episode about that journey. So beginning really with the start, I am someone who grew up in the noughties, so I played a lot of Game Boys, DS's, Nintendo Wii's. That was my era to grow up in, the games I was exposed to, and I was a massive fan of Wii Sports Resort was my game on the Wii, and then obviously I played a lot of Pokemon, but I was also one of those people that when growing up, as opposed to playing lots of different games, if I found one game that I really enjoyed, I would just kind of stick to that game. So when I was playing Pokemon, I literally played nothing else. When I played Wii Sports Resort, I would play nothing else. And that really has stuck through to this day as we move further through the story. But I think that's an important thing to know, because I know people play video games differently. I know some people will mix between 4 or 5 different games or even more, or maybe you're one of those people that just enjoys dipping into games and will try hundreds of different games to find out the ones you enjoy. I mean, we've got Joe who comes onto the podcast to do video game reviews coming up soon, and he's going to be telling you about loads of different games you can be playing and what they do, what they offer. And so he's clearly someone, and I gathered this from speaking to him about video games on the show before, who loves video games and loves playing different ones and is fascinated about what it's like to make them. So I think everyone's got a different experience with video games. I think that's quite a good thing. Some people like to play campaigns where it's all story focused. Some love multiplayer. As I've moved on, I've become a very multiplayer driven person, sort of since the age of about 11, when I first got an Xbox. That was when I basically became a multiplayer person, and I started off by playing a lot of FIFA, moving into Halo, and now we're at where we are today, I think, and actually Minecraft for a bit as well. That was probably the only one that I didn't play for major competitive reasons, although we did actually, I remember, make Minecraft Hunger Games things, and used to have battle sequences. So even a game like Minecraft, we still managed to put a competitive multiplayer edge on, which unbeknownst to me at the time, was pushing me towards the sort of battle royale style of video game that I would come to play today with the game that's in the title of this video, Apex Legends. The reason you clicked on this, and if you're an Apex Legends fan, let me know in the comments. I'd love to grow the community of people that I'm playing with on the game, because I've only been playing it now for 2 weeks, but I'm absolutely loving it. But in terms of where I started out at video games, I started off from quite an addicted space. From when I first got a Game Boy, and I can remember my first ever game, I played Shrek. I don't know what the exact title of the game was, but my dad gave me a Game Boy, and I played Shrek on that Game Boy. It was like a 2D kind of game where you just kind of ran left to right, completing missions. I can still see it so vividly. and then it was Pokemon Emerald. I think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as well. If you had any of these games, please let me know, because I barely know anyone that played any of these games growing up. I missed most of the big ones. I think Pokemon Emerald's probably the only big one I played before I was 11. But starting off there, I got quite into these games, not unhealthily. I think, I had the right balance at that age. It was sort of when I got older and when I was between 11 and 16 that things got quite insane in terms of my video game usage, because between those ages you're at secondary school, and I played so much video games. I'm very happy with my my secondary school experience, the friends I made, the things I did, a lot of amazing memories, and the actual study I did as well. I really wouldn't change it, but I definitely think I spent too much time on video games, because as a person I feel like I've got quite an addictive personality type. Whether you believe in personality types or whatever, I've not pinned it down to anything, but when I get interested in something I kind of just go for it. Like with this podcast, I was like, let's start a podcast, let's bring people on, let's talk about the things they enjoy talking about, and it's just gone and it's gone and it's gone, and look at where we are now. Look how many episodes. It's been crazy, and I love when that addictive side of my personality goes towards something really positive and really just drives me towards something amazing. And I wouldn't be the same person without this podcast, and I'm hoping that this is entertaining and informing you in some way. It's been so much fun to bring these episodes to life, and I couldn't have done that without my personality. Same with my film career. Basically, when I stopped playing video games, I kind of just dedicated all of that focus that I put on video games into my career, and it just shifted so much. But between 11 and 16, I was growing up in quite a rural place, so it wasn't a city. There wasn't a whole lot going on outside of just hanging around with your friends and playing football. Football was a great thing for me growing up. I played a lot of it in secondary school for my local team, and I think that was quite important so that I wasn't completely overwhelmed by video games. But I literally, from 11 to 16, would wake up at 5 a.m. I'd play 2 hours of video games, then go to school, come home from school at 3 p.m, then play video games until about 11 p.m. It was insane. I was doing almost more hours on games than at school every single day. And those numbers were off the charts. I don't think I've had a sleep pattern like that for anything else really in my life, until sort of before the isolation stuff kicked off, where my work was really sort of taking off and I would spend quite a lot of hours without sleep. But I was doing this for video games, and I wasn't sort of doing anything with it. I wasn't making content, I wasn't interacting with people, because when I used to play multiplayer, not all the time I was interacting with people. At the start I had a lot of friends who did, but my friends could really control their video gaming and how much they played, in a way that I simply couldn't. Like, they could go on for a couple hours, have a nice time, have a great chat, but if they were coming online, I was already on for sure, and when they go off, I was probably still on after that, and I knew that had to change. And there are a few turning points that made that change along the road, but I knew that couldn't be sustainable. I just knew it, because if I just put that time into something better, maybe I could do something with it. And at first, I harnessed that energy. So the addictiveness, I thought, I know my personality type, let's work with that. So when I moved to sort of college age, I initially embraced it fully, and I created a YouTube channel. I uploaded gaming content, and it actually did quite well for my age and for what it was, for how simple it was. The channel looked really clean, really professional. I was actually really, really happy with it as a platform. It didn't get tons of views, but it wasn't terrible either. We had a couple of videos hovering around 20,000 views with lovely comments. The community was really strong. That was on the game Halo 4 and Halo 5. A lot of people will think this is controversial, but I really enjoyed Halo 4. Halo 4 was my first ever shooter ever. It holds some of my favorite ever memories to do with gaming, and I think that's why I never judge the games people enjoy, because at the end of the day, it's kind of just whatever games you build the memories on. And for me, it was Halo 4. So many fun times with friends, custom maps, playing custom lobbies, and on that, I remember in Halo 4, I ended up making quite a lot of friends, because what you would do is you'd play, a couple hours of games, and then you'd set up a custom map and then bulk invite every single person you've played with over the last few hours, and then you'd get strangers coming into your lobbies. It was like custom lobbies before custom lobbies, and then you just play with strangers in these big epic custom games and maps that you've designed, and that was so much fun. And I think that was really the sort of peak for me, was when I was creating content, meeting new people, having a great time. And at college level, I had a job, and I was going to college, and my commute to college was like crazy. It was like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So for the first year at least. And so as a result of that, I actually didn't have a whole lot of time to game. And when I did, it felt more special because I had that time compressed. But I still found ways to just feel personally like I was wasting time. Video games are a special thing, and if you feel like you're wasting time with them, then maybe something needs to change, because after that sort of honeymoon period finished and I went into my second year of college, pretty much at this point now, most of the people that I played video games with that I knew in real life had moved on. A lot of them in their second year of college level, so that's sort of between the ages of 16 and 18, got jobs that meant that they couldn't really ever, go online anymore. And some of them I lost contact with at 16 when secondary school finished, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone splinters off at the end of secondary school. It's a long time ago, me thinking about this. And so I was sort of on my own in that space, where once that time finished over, a second year of college, I started working from home with my family. I didn't have that commute anymore because the family also moved closer to where my college was, for a multitude of reasons, but one of those was the commute time for me as well. So I had a lot more free time. Instead of proactively using that time at the start, I just had a tendency to dip back into that secondary school aspect where I would just play for so long and I would spend real money. Like when I was 14 especially, I think I spent a lot of money on like packs and loot boxes in video games, money that I could have been saving, money on things that in retrospect didn't really fulfill me in any way. I was just enjoying the experience of being with friends. And I think that's what makes video games so great, is the way it connects people. So when I was spending real money, I was just, it was going up in the air. It wasn't doing anything. And so I came to the decision in summer 2017, because of my addictive personality, I was online with a few friends, and I kind of just said to them, because I was on all the time, I was on every day, I was playing Halo 5 and really enjoying it, but it was also getting very stale. I don't think the same... and I think later on in Halo 5, so sort of in 2018, they introduced a custom game sort of lobby thing where you could go in and play with strangers. And if I was still playing at that point, maybe I would have got into that. But it all felt very stale. I wasn't really interacting or making new friends. I wasn't even really making content at that point. I'd moved past that. I was coming to the end of college, and I thought, I can't take this with me into my gap year, where I'm going to... Basically, my plan was to kind of stay home and work and see what I wanted to do, whether it was to go to university or... I'm going to talk about it later on the podcast, but I spent a year doing a murder mystery company in that gap year, just a micro little thing that was just me. I wrote stories and put them on in pubs and not clubs, I just put them on in pubs and coffee shops. And that was amazing. And I couldn't have done that if I was playing video games. So in summer of 2017, I made the decision, no, I need to stop this. I can't. So I said to the guys, I said, look, we don't really... I'm online every day. We speak every couple of weeks because you're busy and you've got jobs. I can't control myself to keep to this pattern. So I decided then and there to stop. And I turned my Xbox off June 2017, and it's only just come back on for the first time in April of 2020, because of the self-isolation. I wanted to bring this part of my life back to me and see if I could do anything with this. But yeah, everything sort of skyrocketed from June 2017 because everything felt more freeing. I had more time to do things, more time to just think as well, because thinking time's really important. and video games can distract you from that. And I wanted to think about my direction in life, and that year out really taught me quite a lot. I made so many new memories. I went out and met loads of new people in real life, made friends, sort of almost changed as a person entirely, and never really looked back. And only in this isolation period where everyone's at home and having that time to think, everyone has that time to think, am I sort of reflecting on this, which is why it was a topic I wanted to talk about. But I changed dramatically. And if I look at myself in sort of January 2018 versus the person I was back in, May 2017, they're not really even the same person for the most part. And I think a big part of that was shifting that over to things that were more important. And I think if you're into gaming and you're making it something more for yourself, that's really great. I still watch some gaming content creators just for a bit of fun, and I still watch people who make games, and games are actually really, really important to me, which is why I've had Joe on the podcast talking about it before, and it's why he's going to be introducing video game discussions. I still think they really do have their place. I really do. But I was coming from a place where it was uncontrollable, and it was all I wanted to do, and it was all I could ever think about, but I wasn't making it a proactive thing. I had no desire to be a game designer. I didn't really know what to do with it, and so my love of film really pushed through. I studied it at college. Film has always been something that's been on the side for ages, and I'm doing it at university. I love it. It took over my life, and after the murder mystery sort of settled down, I picked up freelance film work, and I started working in radio, and that's my life has absolutely taken off in that facet. And then when the everything sort of slowed down in March, at the end of March, we were very lucky to actually make our uni film, our film for our university, sort of at the middle of March or just before. They started to isolate and close down universities. We got very lucky, and so for the first, for the whole of March, I was still covered, even though I was at home. There was still so much work to do, and same for the start of April, where we are now. There's still so much work for me to do from home, and I'm so fortunate to be in that position, to be able to do a lot of work from home, and I'm so proud of everyone who's contributing positively to this situation, which is crazy, but so many people are doing such an amazing job, and I want to thank them all. But I had this temptation almost to, revisit the Xbox. I had it stashed away in the loft, and I was really actually looking forward to going back to it. But when I did, I wasn't sure what to play, and I had no other experience with many other games. The whole Xbox world had moved on, and I picked up Apex Legends because one of my close friends recommended it to me. I made a whole new group of friends, and had a lot of them were actually on Xbox as well, so I could actually interact and connect with some of my friends on Xbox who had been playing it since I met them. But obviously I said no, I don't have Xbox, because I stopped playing, and I went to Apex Legends, and the reason I thoroughly enjoyed it was because I was playing when I started, and I still am. It's a game that requires a lot of teamwork. It's a first-person shooter. I love them from the perspective of the tactical angle of it, learning teamwork and communication. I'm a big communication person in general when it comes to work, so this was feeling like an extension of it, and playing it with two good friends. One of them is Harry Monday, who we've had on the show many times. He was the person who introduced me to Apex Legends, so big shout out to him. And playing as a team has just been incredible, because you build communication with two people, you build a relationship within that game, and I limited how much time I play, so I play about an hour and a half a day at most now, as opposed to before, where it would have been 5-6 hours. And I really have got it under control this time. I was really worried that when I got the Xbox out, I wouldn't be able to control that, and I just put all the work to the side and let my perspective shift. But then I realized something. I realized that I have actually changed as a person, and I can control it. something happened to me over, the 2.5, 3 years, whatever, that I didn't play any video games. I realized what was important, and I realized that video games are still important and they still have a place. Because, the way I'm sort of seeing it is, whilst I can't be out there making movies where I'm constantly communicating with people and doing tactics, and because pre-production is one of my favourite things about film, communicating with people all the time, emails, working with actors, I love all that stuff. But when all this is happening, there's a little bit less of that going on. The video games have been there for me because it gives me something to do. It gives me things to communicate about, something to work on and drive towards, but it's not overwhelming me. It's not taken over my life. I still, whilst I'm at home and working like, a 9-to-5 day at my home, I'm not being dragged towards the Xbox. It's not pulling towards me. It's not calling me to play the way it would have done if I was 14. And I think it's very normal to have that worry that it's going to try and drag you back into that old routine. Even, you've changed. Even though I changed, I was worried that routine would call back to me, but it hasn't. And I think the main thing for me was just having perspective, experiencing a whole different life when I left college. And I just made that choice to work for myself, push on with my career, and make real friends by going out into my local community. I mean, we had Dan Inwood on the podcast talking about Meetup on the first ever episode of the show. I want to revisit Meetup because I want to talk about it again. It's been such a powerful influence on my life. And one of the great things, Meetup, and obviously we're not sponsored by them in any way, I just absolutely thoroughly love them. It's an app where you just go on it and you meet new people, and that's it, that's all you do. And when I quit Xbox, I joined Meetup. And so I was working in the day for me, and then in the evening I could be sociable, and I had something to look forward to. And by giving myself, an event to go to, it meant that I wasn't worried about Xbox, wasn't worried about anything. I could just go to that event and have a good time. And I did. It'd be a pub quiz or something, or like just sitting out in a beer garden, or going for a walk, or doing some photography. I hosted events as well, and it just gave me another perspective that there was more to life than just me sitting and playing video games. And for some people, that's not necessarily the case. Video games can actually be so important to some people they can't let go, and that's fine. Because some people are really making something of it. Whether you're a streamer or you play in an actual, you play competitively, where, part of your job as a streamer is to be an actual entertainer. I watch some streamers of Apex Legends now because watching them is like a masterclass, and I'm thoroughly interested by seeing that competitive angle because I'm a massive football fan. So watching competition's big for me, and not having any football to watch, going back and watching highlights from Apex tournaments between really, really strong players has been, great for me. People are making things of it. I wasn't making anything of video games. Now I feel like I am. It's giving me something. It's not overwhelming my life. I'd be really interested to know from you in the comments what video games mean to you, what they give you, what you think you give out as a result. Maybe these aren't questions you even pose. Maybe I'm diving far too philosophically deep into video games than maybe I should, but because at the end of the day I don't know too much about what it all means. But I just feel like I'm in a better space with video games now, and a better relationship with them. I spent the last sort of 2.5, 3 years thinking if I ever went back to them, that's it, I'd just be stuck in that routine. I can't break that. It's either all or nothing. And I've realised actually now I can have balance, and that balance is because of perspective. So I hope that, gives you something, hopefully that makes you think about the way you play video games, what you play them for, what games do you play, what ones would you recommend. I'd love to hear all your thoughts in the comments below, and get a conversation going about this, because video games are a subject that hold a place in my heart, because so many really great memories in my life have come from them, and also have points where I've thought this, I'm really, really not making the most of my life. And now I'm sitting here at home, unable to leave the house, still progressing my career and enjoying video games at the same time. And that's a situation I never ever thought back in June 2017 that I could ever get to. And if you told me where I was now, what I would be doing now, I wouldn't have believed you. So my only real advice is, if maybe you aren't making the most of video games, take a break. If you can, switch the whole thing off maybe for a bit, and just see what life's like without it. I don't know because obviously you'll be listening to this in the future where the situation will be different. If you're allowed out and things are moving more toward normal state, I can't obviously comment based on knowing that, because it's April 9th where we are now. But when things are more back to a normal way, maybe try and reach out to an app like Meetup, go and meet new people, push your comfort zone, give it a go, and then see what it feels like. Maybe you can balance it a little more. I'm by no means in a perfect situation either. Work-life balance is something that's incredibly difficult to master, but it is something to really work on, because if you're happy in your work, it tends to sort of bleed out into every other element of your life. And so maybe taking a step back from video games can help free you up, because for some people it really is a nice escape, video games. And to me it is as well. It's a nice thing to take my mind off of things when I've sort of got a bit of a monkey mind, and I've got lots of different work projects on the go and I'm scatterbrained a little bit. It's actually quite nice to just sit down and focus on a video game. I don't know about you. So it's really got its positives and its negatives. As does pretty much everything. And I'm just sort of articulating my story and how I've taken something that was at the end of it becoming a negative and twisted it into something that is now quite positive to me. And the reason why Apex Legends is the game for me, I'll try and actually bring this back more to Apex now, because I haven't actually talked too much about the game, is it's a battle royale style game. And so in the game you only have one life, really. You can be revived and things, but it's one life game, and because of that you spawn in with 60 players, so the chances of winning are actually really low, because 60 players, you have to be really highly skilled to win games. So there's a lot of satisfaction that comes with winning, growing as a team. You can pick characters that have really special abilities, but all of those abilities have to be mastered. You can't, none of them just give you free kills. All of the abilities have to be used in certain ways to help you. Most of them are defensive abilities as well. So there isn't really an ability that is so overpowered that some of the other ones aren't good. You can be beaten by any other character in the game in any situation if you haven't got the skill. And I love that about a video game, when there's a balance to things and they're constantly tweaking the game, as I'm now hearing as I learn more over these 2 weeks that I've been playing, that allows people to actually improve and adapt their style, and they make those tweaks based on community feedback. So the game's always pushing and adapting. It's never staying the same. And I love that about it. It's on one massive map, so you can get to understand that map. There's so many parts of it, and basically there's like a ring on the outside of the map, and that ring constantly pushes players toward one spot where eventually the game will end, because the ring can get so small that all of the players are crammed into just one spot together. Eventually it has to force conflicts, and I think that's really great, because resulting in that, it's such a tactical game. You have to play based on where the best spots are to occupy on high ground, but also where the best weapons in the game are, and also where the ring's moving. There's so many things all mixed up into this game that just makes it so great to me. And having all this stuff to think about is really nice, because it's giving me decision making, and it feels really creative and fun in a way that a game hasn't felt in quite some time to me. I'm also a big fan of movies like this, action movies. Like it's literally based off the film Battle Royale, the 2000 I think it was 2000 it came out, Battle Royale. And it's just such a great film, that movie. I like The Hunger Games. I prefer Battle Royale because that's the same concept. A group of people. They're not in. I think they're. How are they paired? Is it in the original? Are they paired male and female together? Is that how it works? I think it is. Or no, only one survives. Yeah, only one survives in the original Battle Royale, and it's there's a lot of people in it. I've read the book as well, and I know it's got an expanded comic stuff as well. It's really intense all the time, and I like that tension in a story. It's because people are going to get forced into conflicts that are narratively very interesting as a filmmaker. And I would thoroughly recommend watching the 2000 edition of Battle Royale, because it's just a great film. And the sort of main, I guess you call him antagonist, is very interesting. Like you've got like a silent kind of villain running around who's sort of doing this more for fun, more for sport than anything, which is very interesting to have a character thrown into the mix like that. And there's some really great twists. And when I saw that film, I thought, God, if there was a video game like this. And obviously I stopped playing right when games like this came through. Like, PUBG, Fortnite, all of that was happening during that sort of 2.5 year break, 3 year break where I didn't play any games. So I think just as I was quitting gaming, those games were sort of becoming popular. And coming back to this, I think Apex Legends is like the pinnacle of it to me. Whilst I haven't actually played any of the other versions, I think Call of Duty, you've got one out called Warfare at the minute. Is it called that? I'm going to be roasted in the comments by gaming experts if it's not called that. Warzone, it's called Warzone, isn't it? And that's the one. Yeah, I'm not even going to cut that bit out, but yeah, it's called Warzone. And it's taken off really as sort of a new game mode. So even though it's based on quite a similar concept now, it's got its Call of Duty spin on it that makes it quite unique. I think Apex Legends to me is the culmination of all of these, where you've got balance and so many different skill varieties, and it's always what I wanted from a game, and it's bringing me closer together with people, and you have to work in a team, and I've just loved it. It has rekindled my love for video games, but not in a way that's gonna get me addicted to them. So I feel like once I'm allowed back outside again properly, I will probably not play them as much at all, if at all. And as a result, I think because it's rekindled that love for video games for me, I have the ability to balance that. And when I go back to my job, and like things start up again, and I go back to university, and I'm allowed to go out and socialize with my friends again, I'll fall further away from them. I probably won't play daily. The Xbox might stay away for 6 out of 7 days of the week, very likely. If not, I'll never even go on it again. And so I think that balance is so important, and feeling like you've got control over the situation is as well, so that internally how much this is going to affect you. So what I would recommend is, if you're sort of in the boat with video games where you feel like you play it too often, maybe just see if you're able to take a step away. Just literally turn it off and don't turn on the console. See what that does for you for a few days. Even if you can't go out and socialize because maybe you're in a quieter area and that's not always possible, sitting with your thoughts is also very interesting. I love meditation. I'm a big advocate of it. What you do when you just sit and think is always very interesting, because you tend to think about the things that are most important. Go on online courses, make new friends through Meetup. Skill set or Skillshare is a great place to learn new skills if you want to just try online courses. So when you're at home, you're driven towards something that's not games but more about learning. There are so many different things you can do and that are really fruitful. But then maybe once you've had some time away from the console, you'll realise, hey, actually no, I do feel like video games still have their place, but because I've now got this perspective, I can balance that. And so that's talking as someone who was doing 6 or 7 hours of video games a day alongside school, and how I've moved from that. And I say across summer, those numbers just went up. So like when I was like 12, I mean, I would go on bike rides with my friends all the time, but if we weren't cycling, I was on my Xbox. And so I would be playing for, maybe 10 hours a day. So I was thoroughly addicted. And how I've moved from someone like in that position, which is okay to be in, because games are designed to want to hold your attention, and they're good for that. But it's possible to have that balance. And so please, get in touch with me and let me know your story. I'd love to know what your position is on this as well, whether you play Apex Legends or whatnot. I'd love to continue this conversation, because it's one that's actually quite important to me, and sort of in this time I've just had a bit more contemplation and time to think about it. So do let me know in the comments what you think. I hope whatever position you're in the future is a good one, and you're safe and well. For context, again, I've recorded this episode of the show on the 8th no, not the 8th. I'm never going to get the date right in this episode. The 9th of April. So I really hope you've enjoyed listening to this. Don't forget, every Thursday we speak to a guest with a music feature from a local Kent artist. Sammy Bacon does his album reviews and Harry Monday does his film reviews. Joining the podcast very soon is Joe Finnegan and Emma Cusson. Joe will be doing on Thursdays video game reviews, and Emma will be doing poetry readings every single Thursday. And then on Sundays it's just me and you having a sort of lighter, shorter form conversation just about, a story from my life, an anecdote, maybe something I just want to reflect and talk to you about, or maybe even a film review. Sometimes I have done film reviews on these Sunday night editions. Let me know what you think of them as well, what one you prefer. Maybe you prefer the Thursday editions as opposed to the Sunday ones. I'd love to know your thoughts and sort of shape and expand the show to whatever you like. So thank you all very much for listening, and we'll tune in with you on Thursday for the brand new episode with a guest, features and more on the My Generation podcast.